G'day, Blue Baggers, and welcome to Blues Footy Live. Your host, Jed Zetzer, here alongside Harrison Hymans. Bolt, welcome.
How is it?
Good to see you, mate, once again, and good to be back for another show. This week, there's a lot to talk about. We're coming off a bye, but we've got a crunch match coming up on Saturday night, haven't we?
Yeah. If you thought last week was do or die, this week, probably doesn't revive the season with a win, but it's the nail in the coffin at 4-9. It is a crunch game though, and it's a team that we're definitely a chance to beat, but it's hard to get too confident.
Well, we haven't really beaten anyone, around us or above us. So this would be probably our best win of the season, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be on the road to the Giants. Well, yeah, I guess, we're going that poorly at the moment that I think Essendon and Fremantle find themselves on top of us at the moment. So, yeah, it's pretty grim, but I guess we can rectify that on the weekend.
Absolutely. So let's talk about team changes. Lockie Fogarty comes in, Parks comes in, and the big one, which I don't think many were expecting, is Matt Kennedy at the expense of Murphy, Cottrell. Newnes obviously went out as the medical sub, and Will Setterfield injured. There was no real description of his injury. Initial thoughts on the changes?
So Setterfield, I think he broke his hand, or he's got a fracture in his hand.
Okay, that's not great, but hopefully not anything, too long.
I'm not so sure the finer details on it, but that's the go with Setterfield. But in terms of changes, it's belatedly Luke Parks is back. He should have just been the easy straight swap when Plowman went out after the Hawthorn game. Fogarty, I guess at the end of the day, I think we spoke about, with Silvani, Martin, Fisher, with Silvani, Martin, Fisher in the team, probably only one of Fogarty or Murphy can squeeze into that, high half forward group. And seems like Murphy's the one that's pushed out, which is obviously disappointing for him, but that's just the reality of it at the moment, whether you agree or disagree with it. He's not even in the squad, Murphy, so he won't be the sub this time round. And then Kennedy. What do you reckon on Kennedy?
I think, to be honest, I think we know by now what we're going to get from Kennedy. I don't know. It depends. He didn't play well against Port, which was his only other game where he wasn't the sub, I believe. Because he was subbing at the Gold Coast.
And I think he was the sub against Brisbane.
Yeah, I think so. Look, it's interesting. Kennedy is capable of playing well. He had a couple of really good games last year, but I don't know if there's much to gain by playing Kennedy. Would you rather play Kennedy or would you rather play Murphy in the midfield?
I don't know. I just fear that with Dow already in the team, Ed Curnow in the team, it's just slow, laborious, one-paced, can't really get out of second gear type of midfield. So I don't know. I don't love the Matt Kennedy inclusion. I don't. But, and it's fair what Tim's just said, we probably do need to see him before we can make decisions on his future. But, I don't love it. I don't love it because I don't think there's a role for him up forward with Silvani, Martin, Betts and Owies in the team. I just don't think there's a role for him up forward. So I assume it's maybe going to be a wing position. I don't know. I've actually got no idea, but he could go either way, Kennedy. It's a bit of a bizarre inclusion.
It is. Just in regards to Mark Murphy, I want to talk about him a little bit. It's clear that the club aren't happy with his output playing, on a flank, which is where they've put him this year. Would you say that experiment has failed and, if he's going to come back into the side from now on, it just has to be in the midfield?
I don't even think it's an experiment playing him on the half-forward flank. I think that's just his reality as of now, with age and form. I probably don't think he can go all day in the midfield, to be honest. So I think that is Murphy's spot. And he'll get back in the team, Murphy, as in, look, I see people speaking about selection integrity or whatnot. I think we'd be losing more integrity not getting Mark Murphy to 300 games than what we would be by playing him, because in my opinion, it'd be an absolute disgrace if someone like that didn't get it. So Mark Murphy will come back into the team. His form hasn't been great, but let's be honest, what's the difference between Mark Murphy and Matt Kennedy, or Mark Murphy and Matt Cottrell, or Mark Murphy and Jack Nunes? Isn't going to be much of a difference.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair, because, they took out Cottrell. Maybe Fogarty's going to play on the wing?
Maybe. Yeah, I'm really not sure how they're going to set up for that Cottrell hole, because there's no Nunes either. Obviously, no Lockie O'Brien. So Doherty takes one wing. Maybe Zach Williams pushes up a little bit against his old side. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, it's really interesting. But let's talk about the key matchups. So, obviously, GWS have a pretty solid midfield. I'd say much better than ours. How are we going to control it?
Great question. Well, they got some big boys in there, contested ball beasts, Ward, Hopper, Taranto, then the outside runners of Whitfield and Kelly. So they're much more dynamic than us, and they go both ways. I'm really, really not sure. I'm not sure how we contain that.
Do you see McKay has just got off his hit on Hunter Clark?
That's just what I was laughing at. I saw the notification pop up.
Crazy. So, and Plowman cop two for his hit on O'Meara.
I just want to speak about Petra's comment here about Murphy not being owed anything by the club. As in, it's not as if we're talking about a 3-year contract here. We're talking about an extra 4 games for someone that has bled navy blue, for someone that he was our captain for 6 years, for someone that has led from the front. At the end of the day, is Mark Murphy playing an extra 3 or 4 games in the second half of the season that's going to be so irrelevant to us an issue? Absolutely not. As in, it'd be an absolute injustice if a champion of our footy club was deprived of that milestone, in my opinion. I just think, the commentary around Mark Murphy is just, it's almost disrespectful. It really is. And I'm not saying, I know he's not a volunteer, but at the end of the day, you build club culture about, treating your players about more than they're more than employees, and these guys are the lifeblood of our footy club. As in, if we're playing finals and we're the Melbourne Football Club and we've got Nathan Jones, different story. But we're 4-8. We're probably battling to finish 13th or 12th. At the end of the day, I think it'd be an absolute disgrace if Mark Murphy was left out in the cold for the rest of the year.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting debate because I get that. He had opportunities to leave us as well. He never left. He stayed.
And this isn't gifting game. This Mark Murphy isn't gifting a game because, as I said, the difference between Mark Murphy or Paddy Dow or Matt Cottrell or Matt Kennedy or Lockie O'Brien, there's just not enough difference to say. It's not like we're keeping out guys that are banging down the door, because we're not.
Yeah, so I was going to say, if you look at the 22nd man in our team, I don't think there's a big enough difference between him and Murphy to suggest that we're actually gifting Murphy a game. I don't think that's the case at all. I think Murphy has played some pretty good footy this year as well. So I actually think he's in our best 22. I'd probably, if I was in charge, I'd probably be playing him over Kennedy.
If Mark Murphy wasn't 33 years old, I don't think this notion, because Mark Murphy's not playing worse footy than Paddy Dow right now. So it really annoys me, this whole Mark Murphy topic. I agree, his form hasn't been great. Say that again?
I don't think Dow's got anything to do with it. I think there's quite a few players.
No, that's just the example I've used, in terms of the age difference of how we look at these players getting selected.
Do
you know what I mean?
I get what you're saying. I see both sides, because I definitely don't think – so the notion of gifting games, I agree, can't be happening. But as you said, I don't think this is a case of gifting games, because it's not like he's so far out of the 22. He's fringe anyway. And look, I don't think there's really any point in discussing it, because he will get to 300 unless he gets injured.
And we're clearly not gifting him games if he is, He's been dropped twice in the last 3 weeks. He will play the 300. He deserves to. And if our season's just going to drift into irrelevance in the last 6 or 7 weeks anyway. For me, it's just, you build. What a disgrace that would be. But whatever, we'll see what happens. I don't really have an issue with Murphy playing. Did he deserve to be dropped? Probably. And I don't have an issue with that this week. But that won't be the last time we see Mark Murphy. But moving on. So Phil Davis is back in, so he'll probably take the Harry Mackay matchup.
Yeah. Do you favour H there?
I do. I just think the reach will be really good. I almost think he might be a bit too quick over 10 to 15 metres. So, no, I'm pretty excited for that matchup, to be honest. And I think H, obviously he went off early against West Coast. Pretty big opportunity for him, I reckon. Just signed a new deal as well, which is very exciting. Takes him to free agency.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think it's huge. The Phil Davis matchup, I don't think Davis is going to match him in the air, which is massive for H. But look, Phil Davis is a great player. How many weeks has he missed now, Phil Davis?
Oh, at least 6.
Yeah, so he could be slightly underdone as well. You never know. Their midfield, can I just say as well, interesting omission for them, Lockie Ash.
I suspect he's going to be the medical sub.
But I think he's a good player. I think it's actually, he's the type of player who would hurt us coming on the rebound for them. I think it's good that he's been omitted for us.
It's definitely an interesting one. And I guess the other one from their end was Mumford goes out, and I think this gives the opportunity for De Koning to go. Well, we've still got bloody Pitternet in the team, but I'd love to see De Koning just go head to head with Flynn Briggs is in the team as well for them. But we saw, Flynn last week against the North provide such an option up forward. Well, our boys have to do the identical thing, provide that second relief for H.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting comment here. Billy Baggers watching. Comment what you think about the whole Mark Murphy situation, 300 games. Let us know what you think. But before we visit those other comments, let's move on to talk about how our defenders are going to match up on their forwards.
As in Jared Ruffhead fell 17 games short.
Yeah, so probably wasn't achievable anyway in his last year. Anyways,
it wasn't.
Let's talk about this. Our defence on their forwards. Is Finlayson probably their most dangerous forward at the moment, with Himmelberg being, horribly out of form?
Yep, probably. He probably is. See, the other one that I can't believe has been so out of touch than this is Jake Riccardi.
Oh, he hasn't even looked close. But he only played, 5 games?
He played a game. So, look, it's going to be Himmelberg, Finlayson, and the wrestling ruck of Briggs and Flynn. Flynn was very dangerous last week. I think Finlayson will get the Wietering matchup, and Jones goes the Himmelberg matchup. And, it might even be someone like Parks on Himmelberg, and Jones gets the wrestling ruckman.
Because it's also interesting Riccardi got dropped, because didn't he kill us last year when they came back?
Yeah, a few goals at the start of that last quarter.
Yeah, I feel like he killed us.
Yeah, no, he did. The other one I was going to say is obviously Toby Green is the most dangerous medium-sized forward. Mm-hmm. That's the big matchup.
No. Well, who goes? I think it's Parks.
I'm not saying I like... I think the reality of it is I think it's going to be Liam Stocker.
That's true as well.
I don't want to sugarcoat this as shit as that is. I think it's going to be Stocker that has to just lock down in the goal square or, roam that 50 on Toby Green, which is, it's going to be a very interesting matchup. And that is a genuine, if we thought Liam Ryan was a baptism of fire, this is something else.
Yeah, I mean, Liam Ryan kicked a couple on him. I think a few of Liam Ryan's goals weren't directly as a result of Stocker. Of Stocker. I think there are a couple of other factors, but look, we've got a couple players capable. If it were me, I'd probably do Newman or Parks? I mean, it's really interesting. I don't know if Parks has the leg speed to go with Green.
Well, if it's not Parks, who's taking the resting ruckman?
I don't think Parks goes to Himmelberg. I think because Himmelberg's a lot taller. I think Wiedering will stay on Himmelberg for the match. That's how I think it'll happen. I think Wiedering on Himmelberg, Jones on the resting ruck, and I think Parks will get Finlayson.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
In terms of size, I think Parks is more suited to the size of Finlayson. No,
Finlayson's a big boy.
How tall is Finlayson?
I'm just trying to get that up. Maybe not as tall as I thought.
I reckon like 190-ish, 191.
Yeah, he's 190. He's 197. So he's a big boy.
Yeah, he's a big boy. So then maybe Wiedering gets Finlayson. I don't know. Gee, that's interesting. You're probably right. Then Parks to Himmelberg, but that's the type of matchup that would play Himmelberg into form.
We're good at that.
But how do you see their defence matching up on our forward line?
Davis to H, easy. So I think if we have to learn lessons from last year, and there has to be time put into Nick Haynes, and that has to be Jack Silvani's role on Saturday night. Jack Silvani has to be standing toe-to-toe with Haynes. We cannot, we cannot let him just roam and intercept and peel off. He has to be made accountable, Nick Haynes. Make him defend. So that's very important. Jake Buckley might get the second, the resting ruckman of Pitternet or De Koning. And then there's guys like Isaac Cumming and don't even know who else. They got such an undermanned backline without Sam Taylor. Connor Iden's the other one, so he'll probably get like Jack Martin. Adam Kennedy will probably get Betts.
Noes.
Say that again?
Who goes to Betts and Oes?
I'd say Adam Kennedy and maybe Isaac Cumming or Sam Reed, something along those lines.
Sounds
There's definitely an opportunity up forward for us. We're dangerous, and there's Fisher in that mix as well.
True. I think they're severely undermanned. And I mean, taking Lockie Ash out, that's another one who probably could have matched. Lockie Ash on Fisher is probably a pretty good matchup.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of opportunity to expose them, forward of the ball.
Absolutely. Blue Bag is tuning in. Send in any questions or comments that you may have, and we'll address them. But so last year, we obviously led them for most of the match, and they steamrolled us in the last quarter. Take us back. What was the catalyst for them steamrolling us? I think it was Riccardi played really well. How do we stop that?
Haynes dominated. And it was really weird because we shut down Whitfield, I'm pretty sure, on the night. We led for most of the game, but could never – it was a very low-scoring game for memory. We could never stretch that lead past that 2.5, 3 goal mark. We just can't bury games when we're, got the ball for so long. It's just because it's such static ball movement. It's so, there's no fluency to it, and that's why it's so hard for us to score. That's why it's such a grind. It's just quick ball movement. We have to utilize Sard and Williams. I know it's a cliche, but get the ball into their hands and just, quick ball movement. Get the ball moving, and we're going to be a bit more unpredictable.
I agree with you. We need to look. I don't want to really talk about it much, but it's clear that there is a bit of heat on the coaching box right now.
Yep.
And I think what happens sometimes, and it happens actually a lot, is when a little bit of heat comes on the coach's box, they tend to be a little bit less stubborn. I'm talking about league-wide here. They, get a little bit more creative, listen to the fans a little bit more. This might be a case of, seeing Sard and Williams freed up a lot more than they have been.
Potentially. Zach Williams against his old mob as well. But yes, was it Simpson on green? There we go. But it'll be very interesting. That's what it is. It's just quick ball movement to expose them out the back. It's meant to rain. It's forecast to rain on Saturday night as well, which will make it very interesting. You'd almost drop the second ruck. But
Or the fact that they've brought in a second ruck, probably
Or
not.
just like for Mumford.
Yeah, absolutely. Blue Baggers tuning in, make sure to let us know what you think of the team changes, who you're excited to see, and what your thoughts are. Bolt, so we've spoken about Kennedy. I mean, if he does play on a wing, it's a little bit interesting. He's not the fastest guy on the team. We may struggle a little bit there.
Yeah, it's probably not the most ideal matchup, to be honest. It doesn't really utilize any of his strengths. Not that he's got too many, but it definitely probably doesn't flatter him, to be honest. I think it's probably going to have to be a case of getting Fisher up on the ball. He's a really crafty user, Fisher, but I like Fisher in front of goals. I like him, about 30, 35 out from goal. But I think just for team needs, it might be, it's going to be Fisher or Fogarty that's pushing way further up the ground than what they have throughout the season.
Maybe they both do, and Kennedy goes into the forward line.
And there's a big potential for Kennedy's the big unknown. I think he might even be that rotation with Paddy Cripps.
We could be trying to stretch their already depleted backline.
Because Setterfield had a bit of time in the forward line against West Coast and was kind of doing that rotation with Cripps. So that's a big chance to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Bolt, predictions. Where is this game going to be won? Where's it going to be lost?
Well, for our sake, it's going to be lost in the middle. As in, if we get belted coming out of the middle, it could get really ugly. But for us, it's I think if we get really good, delivery and entry into our forward line, I think we're a good chance to get a pretty decent score. So yeah, that's where the game's probably won and lost. Do I think we're going to win? I don't.
Fair.
What about you?
Yeah, actually, for some reason, I like this matchup for us. I think we're definitely a chance of winning. I think that if things, fall our way, we can absolutely win this game. But it's going to be won in the midfield. I mean, you look at the midfield of GWS, it bats deep. It bats real deep. Taranto, Hopper, Kelly, Ward. Is Cornelio's not back?
No.
I'm probably forgetting a bunch of names, but their midfield bats real deep, and ours doesn't, to be honest. So, there is, the possibility that we just get smacked out the middle. But I think if we're able to sort of tame their midfield a little bit and not get smacked so much, I actually think our forward line is better than their back line, and I think our back line can control their forward line. So I think it's all about the middle. If we are able to, even if we don't necessarily win the midfield battle, if we don't get smacked, we could win this game.
Yeah. I do agree. The midfield's the big one. And look, we get cleaned up in the midfield most weeks, so it's always the big issue. It's just, it's going to be very interesting. And yeah, that's a big one. Do you prefer to tag Kelly or do you prefer to go Whitfield? I think, after watching Kelly last week, he was absolutely insane, really. So Kelly's probably my go-to at the moment, but that could change on the night.
Kelly plays on a wing though, doesn't he?
Yeah. I'm
not sure if they'll put Kerno on a wing. I think this week they probably saw, it's probably why Cottrell didn't make the team, is because, if you've got Josh Kelly on Matt Cottrell, that is just the biggest mismatch probably in the league this year.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I won't even say my next comment. But, yeah. I think Kerno could easily 10 stoppages and kind of run with Kelly around the ground. Because I don't think it's definitely not worth tagging, a Hopper or a Ward. And I'm missing one of their other stoppage players. Who was I missing? I was missing someone in Taranto. It's not worth tagging the three of them. So it's definitely going to be one of the outside Rolls Royces and Kelly at Whitfield.
Just very quickly, Blue Baggers, comment your predictions for the match. Who's going to win and by how much? But just before we get to those comments, but last match, Ed Kerno tagged Jamie Cripps. Is there a possibility that he might go to Toby Green?
There's definitely a possibility he goes to Green. God. Yeah. Scary to think about. I don't. I'd probably be more comfortable with that than Stocker, to be honest. But that's just taking Ed Curnow to a position on the ground he just doesn't want to be in terms of ability wise. I don't,
And let's be honest, he's our third best midfielder. It's like we're sacrificing.
It's a big sacrifice to take him out and leave more midfield time for someone like Dow or Kennedy or guys like that. And it's Jack Martin's third game back as well, so maybe he's going to get more midfield minutes, which would be lovely.
Yeah, comment your predictions, Blue Baggers. Who's going to win and by how much? And we'll talk about them. Bolt, just before we end this one. Oh, I like this from John. Harry will kick 4. Williams and Sard will play their best games, and Carlton will win by 21. I don't mind that. That would be a lovely Saturday night.
That would be nice.
Yes, let's have a look at some of these comments coming through. Just before we end the show, Bolt, I think we've touched on just about everything, haven't we?
No, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Look, it's a big game, isn't it? We have to win, because we got Adelaide the week after, then Freo again. So, yeah, you just got to get wins on the board. From here on, we just got to get as many wins on the board as possible.
Absolutely. Well, Bolt, we may leave it there. A big, big crunch match this weekend, which we've sort of said is going to be one in the midfield. Blue Baggers, if you're up in Sydney, enjoy being at the game. Otherwise, I'm sure you'll be watching on the telly. Bolt, let's just hope we get the W. And when we're doing this again next week, we're a little bit happier than we are this week.
We'll see what happens. I'm disgruntled.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we get the W. Blue Baggers, thank you very much for tuning into this week's edition of Blues Footy Live.